Yeah, I know the countdown's not done, but it's 5 o'clock Pacific by my watch, so welcome, hackers, to Chill Code. My name is Taggart. Tonight, we are doing a little bit of housekeeping. Not the creating of new technology, but the refining of technology, in which we are going to do a little bit of refinement on an older project, which is Nimbuster. And we're going to, once we move on from that, we're going to do some bug hunting in Offensive Notion. Dark Elder, good to see you. Somebody else, good to see you. Orbital. Hey, GoPro. Boy, the gang's all here. Wow, right off the bat, Dark Elder redeems Play Me a Song. All right. I guess we're doing that before we do anything else. Boy, how long were you sitting on that? No better way to start. Well, thank you. All right. Let's get all this going here. GoPro, save it. You might be able to request an album at some point. All right, let's mute that music. Let's bring the piano mic up. Good. And the cam. All right. I think I got one in the hopper.
All right, check 1, 2. How am I sounding? There we go. Now you can actually see me. All right. We'll do a slightly longer one today. This is called Down in the Valley by The Head and the Heart. I wish I was a slave to an age-old trade, like riding around on rail carts and working long days. Lord, have mercy on my rough and rowdy ways. Lord, have mercy on my rough and rowdy ways. Call it one drink too many, call it pride of a man. It don't make no difference if you sit or you stand, 'cause they both end in trouble and they start with a grin. Yeah, they both end in trouble and they start with a grin. We do it over and over and over again. We do it over and over and over again. I know there's California, Oklahoma, and all the places I ain't ever been to, but down in the valley with whiskey rivers, these are the places you will find me hiding. These are the places I will always go. These are the places I will always go. I am on my way, I am on my way, I am on my way back to where I started. Oh, the stars and the eyes of the walls. I saw your face, I heard you calling out. I saw your face in the crowd and you came out. There was a sign on the wall and it reads to me, just like the sun and the grass and the water. Oh, 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 oh. I am on my way, I am on my way, I am on my way back to where I started. I know there's California, Oklahoma, and all the places I ain't ever been to, but down in the valley with whiskey rivers, these are the places you will find me hiding. These are the places I will always go. These are the places I will always go. So I wish I was a slave to an age-old trade. Lord, have mercy on my rough and rowdy ways.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, hey, Husky. Yeah, Rivers and Roads is a great song. Hey, Duct Tape. Oh, you're in chat. Good. Let me move the sound over. There you go. You're live now. Duct Tape, you should be live now.
Perfect. Hi.
Hey, Duct Tape and Dreams is joining us. Let me get the guest text up. So many things are happening. That's not who you are. Duct Tape.
I only wish I was Husky some days.
Man, me too. Thanks, Bogrito. All right. So let's see what happened while I was facing the piano. Dark Elder, thank you so much for the subs. That's look at that. To just like that, to Jochi, just a guy, and to I can't read that, but thank you very much for all of those subs. All right, so bringing it back to Programming State of Mind. Not one of Billy Joel's favorite or more popular songs, Programming State of Mind. How are you doing tonight, Duct Tape?
It's been a stressful week, so it's good to unwind with something like programming, which now that I said out loud sounds kind of weird.
It's a specific pathology that you and I have, where we can wind down with code, but I totally understand it. I'm sorry that the week was stressful, though. I mean, I'm feeling it though. Not the greatest week, globally.
No, they're looking to push some of my unit out from the army to go deal with it. And I'm just like, that's fine. You guys have fun with that. I'll stay here, run the satellites.
Jeez, yeah. Yeah, thoughts with everybody involved with that, but all right. So our first job tonight is want to do some work on Nimbuster here. So the problem that Nimbuster has right now is that it is designed essentially for parallelism, but parallelism is for this not really the right move, because what we really want to do, if we're scanning a bunch of URLs, right? We don't need multiple CPUs doing math for us to make that happen, right? Because at the end of the day, we're still getting in line at the NIC. But what we do want to do is kind of schedule that out so that we want to schedule it out in such a way that if a big response is coming in and that takes time to return, we're not waiting on that while we're going after other entries in our URL list, if that makes sense. So what we're really interested in is not parallelism per se, but concurrency. And also async, non-blocking. And so there are two different objectives, but I want to start with concurrency, and then we'll see if we can do concurrent asynchronous, and we'll see what that does for us. What do you think?
Yeah, and for those of you confused and they thought concurrency and parallelism were the same thing, they are, but they're not.
Yeah, let's actually do a quick diagram of that, because I do think it messes with people, especially, like, I don't have a CS degree, and it took a while for me to understand it. And honestly, I mean, you know what actually made me finally understand it was working in Rust, because the two design patterns are so obviously different.
Yeah.
So okay, let's talk first about parallelism. So parallelism, we've got two CPUs, right? We'll call it CPU 1, and we've got, I'll come over here and we'll do CPU 2. And
this is CPU cores, right? Not physical dies.
That's right, CPU cores. I mean, if we're talking about an Intel Core 2 Duo, then we are actually talking about
fair
separate CPUs. But if you're not from 2004, then we are talking about CPU cores. That's a good call out. Okay, CPU Core 1 and CPU Core 2. Yeah. And so what I can do with these two different cores, if I'm working in parallel, is I can send from my program, I can send multiple tasks, right? So I can send task 1 to the CPU core, and hey, I put in insert mode. Why you gotta do me like that? And boy, this is easier in Vim.
I thought Code had a Vim mode.
It does, but it's I actually like the VS Code shortcuts as they are. That's something I don't love to mix and match. But I can definitely put in task 2 into this right here. So I'm sending task 1. I know it's a little messy, but I'm sending task 1. Let's renumber these. Task 1 to CPU core 1 and task 2 to CPU core 2. They're going to execute independently. Now, if they are referring to the same data structure, I have to take care of that with either a lock or a mutex or something like that to make sure that I don't have any kind of weird race conditions. But it's two entire separate computational processes, right, on two different CPUs that have been tasked to do those two different jobs. Okay, that's parallelism. Concurrency is something a little bit different. Concurrency, we have to kind of zoom in to what's going on over time. So we're gonna kind of think about so this is the timeline, right? Okay, so this is our timeline of tasks. And we're just talking about CPU 1, right? Only one CPU core has to be in the conversation for concurrency. And so what's going on really is that the CPU is not doing one thing. I mean, it's doing one thing at a time, but what that thing is keeps on changing, right? So what we have with modern operating systems is the ability for the CPU to switch tasks so quickly that it appears as though it is multitasking. But the truth is that it isn't multitasking. In fact, it has ADD, right? Because it's switching tasks all the time and doing a little bit of work on each one until it no longer has to, and it can kind of switch focus. And Duct Tape, keep me honest here. If I'm spewing nonsense, please correct me.
Yeah, the technical term you're looking for is hyperthreading.
Yes. So if I have task 1 from whatever process, right, async is cooperative multitasking. Then Thanks, PJZ. So I have task 2, and basically each of these is asking for a share of time on the CPU. And so however many cycles it takes, right, I can say, okay, task 1, task 1, task 1, and then all of a sudden, all right, task 1 no longer needs the CPU, we're going to do task 2, task 2, task 2. Now, to a certain degree, the operating system is handling this scheduling for you. But when you're doing something cool with async, now there's a little bit more, as PJZ is saying, you get a little bit more control over it. You're kind of indicating, rather than letting the OS or even the programming language decide for you when you can give up control, or you can let other things kind of take over for you. You are specifying it. You can say, okay, I'm not blocking here, go do something else, or I am blocking here, you gotta wait for me. So notice that the big picture here is that we are sharing, it's a timeshare on a single CPU. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about concurrency. Whereas with parallelism, we are in fact splitting the work across multiple CPU cores.
Yeah. And the main reason why we're coming back to this is, like he was saying when we started this, we could split this across multiple CPU cores, but the NIC can only take one task at a time. So instead of doing this multitasking or hyper-threading, we can say, okay, well, while we're waiting for the NIC to do whatever it's going to do, we could do other things.
That's exactly right. And there's another reason that I found in trying to use Nimbuster that I definitely want to do it this way, which is that if I am limiting my work to parallelism, if I'm in a VM with just 1 or 2 cores, I'm going to be unnecessarily slow, right? I'm making myself slow for no reason. So if we look in the code that we have right now, that's actually happening. There's a lot to break down. It's so funny how short. Husky, have you counted how many lines of code we have in Offensive Notion at this point? I know we're topping at least a couple thousand. But it's so funny to come back to Nimbuster and it's like 172 lines of code. Yeah. I think we're under 5,000, unless we count dependencies. I think our artisanal handcrafted code is under 5,000.
Artisanal handcrafted.
Yeah, that's what you want, man. You don't want the IKEA equivalent of programming. You want the stuff that's going to last. Right? Heirloom programs that you can pass down.
Is that just going to Stack Overflow and copying the top response every time?
Absolutely not. You know, this is the work of people who've been trained in an apprenticeship. Barrel slow aged cage-free functions. Yeah, ethically sourced functions.
I was saying IKEA is just Stack Overflow.
That's right. IKEA is Stack Overflow. Dolphin safe dependencies. That's right. No stack growth hormone in our code here. All right. With that joke absolutely beaten to death, let's take a look at where we are setting up the threads here. So, and some of this was from our pal Riley, who really was helping us out in this. But we were kind of under the impression when we did this that the threading that Nim is doing, and understandably, because Nim's documentation doesn't make this super clear, we were under the impression that Nim's threading was really talking about parallelism. It ain't. So we can just not do this, where we're limiting our maximum threads to the number of processors -1. So we're just not going to do that.
So threads are concurrent, not...
Yeah, it's wild. So if you look in, I had to kind of do a little bit of hunting for this. But yeah, so it turns out that the threads are not... They are... So there's threads and then there's channels. And so if you put those together, what you get is essentially almost like a Tokyo MPSC situation. And channels is really what we're talking about here. And notice, so when we talk about channels, it's like, I'm going to go set a task off to do its thing, but I need it to send information back to something, right? That is how concurrency works. And in order to make that happen, notice that there's a channels built in, and it tells me this is part of the system module. Do not import it directly. What you do is you compile with the threads on flag. And in fact, that is what we're doing. So if we go over to Nimbuster and I go to the nimbuster.nimble, nope, my bad, the nim.cfg, you'll see that threads is on. So I am using this. I just am not like explicitly using it, right? So, yeah, despite the fact that it's called threads, TLDR, despite the fact that it's called threads, it's actually concurrency that we're talking about. Are these like, are Go-like channels? Kind of, I would call them, yeah, like Go routines and channels. They're close to that concept. Tsar, I'm using, I think straight up HTTP clients. Yeah, which is a NIM first-party library. So the first thing that I want to do is see if I can just knock off this max threads thing. Now I know that there is an upper limit, because otherwise I'll get like a too many files open error. But other than that, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to knock off this code and see where we get errors here. Yeah, so just going to find and replace. Oh, I don't need to Control Shift F. I just need to do Control F. I'm just going to find and replace num threads. Oh, no, my bad. I don't want to do it that way. I'm just going to do threads here. Yeah. So the safety that we're doing here is accounting for where the word list is smaller than the number of threads. And I am going to set a default number of threads, I think.
Well, instead of doing that, why don't you just set num threads to just like 5 or 100?
Well, hang on a second. So threads equals... Is there some reason why threads is yelling at me?
Where is it initialized?
It should be in the function. Yeah, it is. Threads right here. And in fact, this is what I need to knock off here. This whole block. Threads are probably OS level threads, which are heavier weight than you probably think. Maybe, but let's take a look. In this, because this is the thread pool library. This is what we're using to make it happen. Yeah, I don't think that it is. In fact, I know for a fact it's not, because each thread has its own garbage collected heap and sharing memory. It is not OS level threads, PJZ. It's its own thing. Yeah, so I want to knock off this whole thing. So basically, there was a safety here where if we couldn't count the processors, so we'll say threads is an int. And I am pretty sure, yeah, we can do thread equals, we'll say 10 by default. And then, yeah, there we go. Now I can start correcting for this stuff. Threads. And I am overloading it here, or shadowing it, I should say. But that's okay. And then distributing threads. Threads. Opening channels for each one, trying to receive the data. Okay. Num threads cannot be assigned into. So actually, I want to undo all of that. And just say, we're going to bring this back to be threads -1.
So something interesting to note, a thread has a proc that's pinned to CPU. So you can pin a thread to a certain CPU core. But from the looks of it, they're really just sort of ethereal and they're not backed by anything.
Where did you see that?
On the NIMS documentation, if you look at thread.
Just in thread, not thread pool.
Yeah.
Okay. And create thread?
At the,
pin to CPU. I see.
Yeah. So that's where you can actually pin it to a CPU and make it backed like an OS level thread. But other than that, it's just sort of there.
If you don't know what this means, you shouldn't use this proc. Do any other languages have thread pinning like that? I don't know.
I know for a fact C does.
And since NIM is a transpilation of C.
Yeah. And so that means by default C++ has it. But I couldn't think of anything. No, because all the other languages beyond that.
Yeah. So I just looked to see if there's a Rust crate. There's a core affinity crate, so you can set an affinity. It is possible.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you go any higher than Rust or C or C++, you couldn't really pin it to hardware, right? Because you can't see the hardware.
Yeah, as soon as you're not compiling and you're not running on the metal, I wouldn't imagine that's a thing you can do. All right.
Yeah, PJZ, other system links.
I'm curious if Haskell has core affinity. It sure does.
Haskell goes down that far?
Oh, it is a... You can but shouldn't do OSs in Haskell. Like it is that low level, or it can be if you want it to be. It's pretty insane.
I mean, you can make an OS in JavaScript. OS.js is a thing.
Oh, I mean like a bootable. I mean like a bootable OS. But don't do it. Like it would be insane. That would waste so many cycles compared to something else. Less than you'd think. Yeah, I mean, you're right, Cheeto, but I was taking a look at a cool article today from AWS. Let's take a look at this together. This is a really neat study. So, this is just an article about sustainability, transitioning things to Rust. So, first of all, they did some cool, some research on energy efficiency in languages. And so this was kind of the latest data. So notice that there are 3 tables here. One of them is about energy usage, right? And then computation time for specific tests, and then memory usage, right? And as you can see, obviously C is kind of like the baseline. Rust is, for all intents and purposes, on par. And then as you go down, again, this is energy usage, right? Fortran, Swift, then Haskell, then C#, then Go, Dart, F#, JavaScript, Racket. I appreciate them using Racket, and then Perl's like the worst. But then look at this in terms of computation time. Again, Rust right up there, C++ coming in third, but kind of a distant third. And then look at how comparatively fast Haskell is. I was shocked at this, especially, against things like Swift. I couldn't believe that it didn't just beat Swift, it beat Swift by a country mile. Look at that. And then everything else is kind of down in crazy higher numbers. Haskell can get optimized to a really extreme level. Most people don't go to the trouble, but you can in fact do it. And then this was the other cool thing. So take a look at, this is from Discord actually. I'll link this, why Discord is switching from Go to Rust. And take a look at their response time chart. This was bananas. If you look at the average response time in Go, you can see it's in milliseconds and the max at mentions per second. Okay, now look over in Rust. They went down to microseconds. milliseconds here. They shifted orders of magnitude because the speed improvement was so much better.
Can you actually expand that real quick?
Yes.
Oh wow, you're right, it's orders of magnitude better. It wasn't just they had to shift down. They had to shift down and just so you can see the graph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Totally wild. So, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. That it turns out that Rust is not only crazy, screaming fast, it's also better for the environment. That made me feel better. Okay, Ginger, you have no excuse becoming a Rustacean. You are more than capable. We've been doing enough Rust on here. We'll be doing some more tonight that, the syntax should be getting familiar just by, absorption through exposure. Okay. But we're still theoretically doing Nim for the moment. Okay, so we're going to leave num threads as is. We're basically using that because we do this kind of hacky thing to reassign the number of threads. So what we're doing here is we're creating as many threads. We're splitting up our giant word list into num threads, right? To kind of split the work up. And that's how many of these we're going to do. And each one will do its own thing. Now, I'm pretty sure I still want the requests to be async, but I'll leave that alone for the moment. And I think that might be all I need to change is just get rid of that CPU block. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a shot. So the way this thing works, if I remember, is, threads like that. But by default, it should run. So if I do nimble run at threads 10, but that's default now. So let's see how fast this runs. It should probably cannot open wordlist.txt. Interesting. Well, it's actually
too many T's.
Yeah, but I didn't give it that many T's. There it is. Okay, threads 9.
%10 complete.
I still really like this output. As much as I love Ferox Buster, the output from Ferox Buster is a lot. And we made the decision when we were building this that this was going to be essentially shell compliant output, where if I wanted to grep for just my status, I could do that. Or just my discovereds, I could do that if I wanted to, or use T to get it to a file if I wanted to, rather than look at the interface for everything. Okay, well, this is running and it's not dying, which is kind of exciting.
And it seems to be running fairly quickly.
Yeah, and that's with 10 threads. And in fact, I'm going to kick it up to 16 just to see what happens.
Well, I mean, what happens if you put it at 100 threads, right?
Well, I still have the one nick. You know what I mean?
No, I know, but I'm saying, would it crash or would it realize that, hey, I can't spin up 100 threads?
Well, I don't want to, kill the nick that is streaming.
That is, oh, I forgot. Yeah, that's true.
But
this is why you need your lab. What's going on with that?
Well, I mean, it's off right now, but it's also not where I'm building stuff. But it's good. Where's my WSL adapter? There it is. Yeah, this is what I was finding before, where it like hangs around 70%. 80%. Yeah, look at that.
That's really weird. Whoa, another jump.
Okay. So, let me do that with, I'm going to kick it up to 20 threads, just to see what happens. How much CPU is it eating? Like, nothing. Is it just me, or is that definitely faster?
Seems faster.
Yeah. We'll do a time on it. I want to see if it hangs at 70% again, because that was the problem I was having. I think that's when we start hitting the buffer limit for the NIC. Yeah, I think at this point we're like waiting for responses, right? Because there's not a whole lot coming in.
Yeah. Can you run it again against Ferris?
You mean Ferox Buster?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will absolutely do that. I will run Ferox Buster after this one finishes.
So. And then for PJ, like, there's no CPU anything really that's going on, because it's really just craft HTTP packet, wait for response.
Yeah. Some of the speed diff could be DNS resolution caching. I mean, maybe. This is my website. I promise the DNS resolution was cached already in both cases. Now, these are coming in at different times, though, which is interesting. Right, so I don't think we saw 40 sitemap about 50 before. Yeah, we definitely didn't. Look at that. So they are coming in at different times. And that's because of the scheduling, right?
Yeah.
Depending on which job is getting preference. No, just my site. Yeah. And then we hit 70-80%, we just do this giant jump.
Oh, that was much faster. It didn't hang. Felt like it didn't hang at 70 at all.
I agree. Okay, we'll do a proper test, though. So we'll kick it up to 32 threads, which is what I think the default for Hydra is. But you wanted to see Ferox Buster, right?
I'm just saying we have to run time, though, so we can compare, like, actually.
Agreed. So we'll do...
And then, as a disclaimer, PJ, do not do this on any sites that you do not own.
Yeah.
We are not lawyers.
This isn't even an AWS instance, so they can't yell at me about that either. Interesting.
I feel like you need one of those like soundboard buttons that just has like that legal disclaimer, like don't do this on stuff you don't own.
This isn't malware, Husky. We've written all of our malware in Rust.
I mean, yeah, you have Evil Ferris.
Is it just me, or this is spending a lot of time at 10%.
Yes.
I wonder if it's too many threads.
That's what I was wondering. What would happen if you over-assign threads?
Yeah, well, I think we did it. Are we just crawling it? Yeah, so PJZ, it's stupid simple. All we're doing is we're taking a word list of potential URLs and we're firing them off as fast as we can. If we get a 200, or actually no, if we get by default, a 200, a 301, and a 302, if we get any one of those, we report it out. I thought we had the ASCII animation of Ray Parker Jr. going busted. That's pull requests welcome, Husky. Go ahead and put that in there.
I almost wondering if this isn't a hardware polling issue that you're hitting.
Yeah, I agree.
Because your NICs just told your, all your CPU threads to hold off for a second, and they'll wait and come back, ask later.
Could be. It's still so interesting to me to see when different things get discovered here, because it's the same list every time. My website is it's Nginx in a Docker container. I mean, I can take a look at my dashboard. It's all static pages. Yeah, it's stone simple. Actually, I get to plug Zola. So I built my website with the Rust static site generator. Is it hosting anything worth poking at? No. No, it's just raw HTML, pretty much. But I built it with this really, really nice, simple static site generator. It does use Jinja for its templating, so if you've done any of the Jinja stuff in Django or anything, it's the same deal, but it's Rust under the hood, and it's a really nice build experience when I have to rebuild the site.
Which I assume is not very often.
Pretty much whenever I do a blog post, right? So that's how static sites work. If I do a new blog post, I just add the markdown, I run Zola build, and then I push it up. I push it up to my production branch, and then Docker Hub pulls that, rebuilds the container, Watchtower pulls that, and rebuilds the Docker Swarm.
All to serve up a static site.
Well, the Swarm hosts more than that. The Swarm hosts hackerstrategies.org as well, and also passphrase.taggarttech.com.
I was say I knew Hacker Strategies had to be you. The text at the top gave it away.
That's right. Yep, my passphrase generator, and then Hacker Strategies, which is the oblique strategies for hackers.
Use a bigger list.
Yeah, Husky put some of these in here. Challenge their assumptions. Pretty sure that was Husky's. Yeah. And then, yeah. It's funny, this, I've been thinking about this one a lot. Docker Swarm. There's not a proxy. Well, actually, that's not true. There is a proxy in the way. I misspoke. There is a proxy. Because there's an Nginx. There's an Nginx container that is proxying down into the actual container running that. But that's been true the whole time. That didn't change while we were running the test. Okay, so it took 186 seconds. I'm going to kick it back down to 20 threads and see if it does better. I think it did better. Also, we can do this. We can stop this -1 nonsense. Because it says 19 because we were doing the -1 to take into account a thread for the main task. That is definitely faster.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, 1xyn, good to see you.
But then it freezes at this 70 mark, which is so strange.
It does.
I almost wonder if you fed it a list twice as big, if it would take twice as long. Is it linear or is it exponential?
I think it's log, right? Because the trick why I don't think it's linear is that it's... Wait. No, it might not be log, but I don't think it's straight linear because the trick is that we are distributing the list over the number of threads.
Yeah.
So what is that? That's O of like 1 over N?
Yeah. No. No.
No.
Because 1 over N is still linear.
Right. I guess that is linear. Could I be hitting GC? You mean a garbage collector? It's possible. Yo, that was 138 seconds though. So 20 threads was faster than 32.
By a significant margin.
Yeah. Let me bring it down to 16 and see if we do any better. Or functionally 15. Look at that. So we hit categories first.
And instantly.
Yeah, but
And
like
that's sitemap.
it was one of the last ones that we hit last time. The reading of the list must not be linear. That's the only thing I can figure. Well,
Well, how are you pulling the list in? Let's look at the code.
yeah, so yeah, Riley still claims that lines works here, but I could not get it to work at all. So is read all, split lines, filter, get rid of any comments. If you go async, it'll be way faster. I am not sure, PJZ, but that was my thought too. That was my original theory. That if I can not block on these things that are waiting anyway, then I'll continue through the list a lot faster. That is my thought as well. Because what if I get to a situation that like basically every single one of my tasks except for one is blocking? The marble machine. Oh my god. Right. That was the... Hey, Tiny Witch. Wow, long time no see. Good to see you. The Husky's referring to an analogy that I came up with to explain multiple producer, single consumer concurrency for our port scanner, where imagine a marble race where you're putting in marbles at different times, but at the end of the day, they all have to get into the same bucket. That is multiple producer, single consumer concurrency.
Now this seems like it's taking forever and a day.
So I think it hung in a different place.
Yeah, it hung at 50 for a while.
Yeah. I think this should just power through.
80, 90.
Dunzo. 141. So within the margin of error.
Yeah.
138. 138 to 141. So that's pretty close.
Let's see what Ferox does.
Yeah. Wow. So Ferox Buster, don't recurse. Wordlist is going to be big.txt. HTTPS Taggart tech.com. And I have to. The thing with Ferox Buster is you have to put some brakes on it anyway, or it will flood your neck. So we can say threads of. Let's do threads of 16.
Apples to apples as much as possible.
And then limit 16. Probably should have given it a URL, huh? Oh, I did. I just forgot to give it the TACU. Oh, I did. Wow. You know, it's been a long time since I've had to reproduce a Ferox Buster line from memory. Hold on. Let me expand the... And then time. Prepend that with a time so we can actually see what happens. There we go. So notice that the concurrent scan limit is 16. Threads is 16.
And timeout is set to 7.
Yeah. This is screaming. But, so, that is an important question. What is the big architectural difference with Ferox Buster?
Do you have a timeout set?
I don't, but I don't think that matters. Because I should be getting 404s on all of them straight away anyway. Recursion? I actually think it's the async. Ferox Buster is built async. With not just Tokyo, but, well, with Tokyo. So it uses Tokyo both for concurrency and for async. So, Tiny Witch, the code that you see on the left is the NIM programming language. Look at that, though. Look, it's slowed down right about 60%. Same deal. Right? Just like the brakes get put on. And I think it's because it threw so many things at the NIC. It's like the NIC's like, wait.
Yeah. That or
I'm
your
done.
site's like, wait.
Maybe.
Take a look.
Or my ISP is throttling me, but that usually doesn't happen.
But looking at it right here, if that time to completion is to be believed, then you're sitting out about the same speed as Ferox Buster with Nimbuster.
I can live with that. The real test will be when we do it in a VM.
And not on WSL with all its weird networking shims.
Yeah.
That can't be right.
No, look up here. 137 seconds.
Oh. Yeah, which is within the margin of error.
What does the network stack look like under WSL? Does Win or Linux do the packet reassembly? It's Hyper-V, PJZ. WSL2 is just a glorified Hyper-V virtual machine.
With a couple specialized kernel driver things.
Yeah. All right, well, I can live with that. So then the last piece is, if we want to try to do it async, we would have to we import async dispatch. And then we make our lives way harder. I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking maybe we leave async for next time. And we just set it for concurrency now and call it a day. And then head over to Offensive Notion. Because there's like work I have to get done on that. So at the heart, it's using Windows Network drivers. Yes, in fact, PJZ, that is so true that if you try to run Nmap in WSL, you basically have to run nmap.exe on the Windows side. Because even like WSL cannot have raw socket capability to the NIC. It's not allowed to have it.
I ran into that recently when I try to send out that ICMP packet. If I try to ping myself, on like 127 whatever, as soon as it tries to grab the socket, it throws OS error 22, cannot open file.
Exactly. All right, git commit am no CPU locking co git merge async git merge git merge async. Awesome. Okay, and then save, and I think I want to. Yep, this is up to 0.4.0. Git st git commit am 0.4.0 git tag add version 0.4.0. Threads not locked to CPU. Git push. And git push v. Was it git tag? I can do git push v 0.4.0, right? To do push a tag? No, git tag push. No, maybe. I always forget the syntax for pushing tags.
Pushing tags? I would never do that, so I have no idea.
There it is. So git tag. No. Git tag. Oh. Huh. Git tag d push. And because I made 2 tags, I didn't want to. And then so git push origin v 0.4.0. There it is. And the reason we do that is so that good old Nimbuster here.
Hello and welcome to the vent hotline. Stay on the line and we'll trace your call to the mother.
If we go to releases and we draft a new release, because there's tags, there's a 4.0, right? So if we draft a new release, right, we choose a tag, and now with real concurrency. And we'll go ahead and attach some binaries there to it as well, just for, so we can do nim C D Ming W, and that'll build it for Nimbuster. Actually, I should be do like nimble build. That's what I wanted. Thank you. And so that's the Windows one. So I'll cp nimbuster.exe over to downloads. Perfect. And then let me run nimble build again without the because it's already targeted for release based on, whoops, that's where we're going next.
No, PJZ, their net stack is completely horrible.
Yeah, it's already set for release. Okay, so cp nimbuster. cp nimbuster to WinHome downloads Linux AMD 64. Perfect. Now there are straight up binaries that we can attach to this release. And that is how we do that. Project management, suckers. So if you want the code, you can go ahead and get it. Nimbuster. Now it should be suitably quick. All right. Moving on. Closing the nim box. Nimdocs, getting real happy about that. So now, offensive notion. Big thanks to Husky for all the work that he's put in on the documentation in the last couple days. We're approaching proper release. Yeah, it's so pretty. Look, agent interaction. We've got how-tos on all the commands. Real good stuff. You will know how to use this once it's out and ready. So what we want to do today is we want to chase down one bug I know about, and we want to pressure test basically all the commands to see if we can get this thing to crash and how, and then build defenses against it. So For those of you who aren't familiar with Offensive Notion and what we've been doing with it, where you been? No, seriously. So Offensive Notion is a C2 agent that Husky and I have. Go to the quick start. So it is a C2 agent built to use the Notion note-taking app. For its communication channel. It's the Rogue Wave. It is the Rogue Wave.
What do you guys call it? It's a LOTS application, living off trusted sites.
Yes, that's right. And so let me get my terminal over to it. All right, good. Let me see if Husky's made any changes recently. He has, or I have. Git merge main. Oh, you fixed the main PY bug. I had some other commits that were on my other system. I write most of my code at night, not on this system, because I'll do it while I'm spending time with my wife on a couch, not in front of this massive desktop. So, all right, so the bug that I know about is in the Windows version of this. So first of all, let me rebuild. So cargo build, cargo build. I'm in the right. Yep. Cargo build target x86. Yeah. And even the debug build. And I know that you're freaking out, Duct Tape, about all the warnings. Let me share my screen over to you in Discord so you don't have to be on a lag.
That would be helpful.
There you go, buddy. Yeah, so a lot of these warnings are things that have to do with cross-compilation, where there are things that get used, the logging not so much, but things that get used in like the Windows version of the app, but not the Linux, or vice versa.
And you just haven't added all those meta comments to Rust yet?
To ignore the warnings. I actually want the warnings in there. Because it's kind of a reminder for me. Like stuff like this, like the mutable things, I want to walk through these at the end here. That's housekeeping, though, as far as I'm concerned. If I'm not getting stopped from building it, that's happy days for me.
That's fair.
Target x86 debug offensive notion.exe, and we're going to copy that to WinHome downloads. Okay, so the bug I know about is that right now the warning formats are nice. I agree. Tiny Witch. So right now this thing will launch just fine. And in fact, let's launch it right now.
So, while we're waiting for you to launch it,
Yeah.
I've got a question. You have a Rust agent for Linux and a Rust agent for Windows.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a Rust agent for
Mac.
Yes?
It's coming. It's on the roadmap. It will work almost identically to the Linux one, with the exception that I won't be able to pull off some of the I won't be able to pull off the privilege escalation technique, because, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a minute since I've been on a Mac, but I believe that the latest versions of macOS essentially bricked sudo. Right.
I have stayed on Catalina. I have not gone to Big Sur because it breaks all my DevOps stuff.
I think they tried to get rid of root as root a while ago, and I think that that's really taken place now. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure you can, like, sudo is still there, but you can't you really don't have full read-write permissions across the entire system. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to launch this thing. I go into my downloads folder. There's Offensive Notion. And I just love the fact that we did it with this little red Notion icon. You can see the actual Notion icon down here on my taskbar. And we did it just with a slightly red coloring, so you could tell the difference. Yep, just a little bit off. But yeah, so I'm going to fire this thing up, but one of the things that it does seem to require right now, it'll work, is it requires that config.json to be there, and we'll talk about what that does. Let me fire this up. So here it comes, and I have launch app set to true, so the agent actually launches Notion, but it does it by launching Edge in app mode. So it looks like it's launching the app.
That's devious.
When I thought about how to do this and why to do it, it's one of those things where it's like a lot of other malware could be doing this. They just decided not to. Okay, and you can see I got this Odyssey back here. So if I do now, I'll do a pwd command with the target to indicate that I'm ready to go. Got command pwd, and then it returns the text. Am I crazy, or did dark mode get darker?
No, it looks the same to me.
I feel like it's way darker. Okay, Husky is confirming I'm not crazy. Yeah.
Maybe you both are just crazy from staring at it for so long.
You know, the number of pages that I've created. Yeah. Hold on. Let me... Yeah, like even from when I did the stuff, agent interaction. Yeah, that's a different color.
Oh, that is totally different color. Never mind. I retract my statement.
Look at that. Okay. All right, so other stuff that I can do. So obviously PWD works. You want a Dracula theme? Absolutely. Husky, should I show the inject? It's too good. Okay, so the inject is a little bit interesting. I found this wild evasion technique. I hesitate to even call it a technique because it's too stupid. So let me pop over to my Kali machine for a second. And cd scripts payloads. Perfect. Okay. So what do I have in here? Perfect. So like Ginger is confirming even as root on Mac OS, you're getting some permission denied on library application support. Yeah, that's see what I'm saying. They I think did kind of a rootless. There's one obvious way you can get to root. I think single user mode still is proper root, and recovery mode is proper root. But during the real run of a Mac OS system, I don't think you have full permissions.
I know Big Sur started moving over to like a hypervisor client sort of model.
I don't know about that. I mean, if you because you can open up the x86 terminal versus the M1 terminal, if that's what you are referring to.
No, so they're calling it security enclaves, but basically when you're
the
stuff you see in user space doesn't actually see anything on the bare metal.
Right.
Got to go through that weird like security hypervisor thing to get down, and because of that, even if you get root, it's not really root. You just took control of user space, which you already could have done anyway.
Right. So here's the trick here. So I'm doing like a who cares, intro pen testing MSF Venom thing, right? I'm just creating a interpreter payload. I'm outputting it to C# to get the bytes of it. And then I'm setting my L host, I'm setting my L port, and I have Metasploit ready to rock. I'll just set that listener up to run right now. So this is running, and just so we're all on the same page, you can see that on my host system, Defender is on. For obvious reasons, I do not have sample submission turned on, but Defender is on. All right? There's nothing up my sleeves. So I've got the Meterpreter listener running, and then I have the output. So if I vim mt.cs, this is what that looks like. It's gigantic, right? But I'm not actually going to use that, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to run sed. This is kind of a crazy command, but what this does is it replaces everything except for the hex strings and the commas from the document, right? That's what I get at the end of the day, is something that looks like that. So I send that over to a note.txt, but I could also actually write from here. I could base64 encode it, and I'm giving it a -W0 to avoid word wrapping, or to get rid of line breaks, right? And I just do that as many times as I want to encode this thing. 3 is working for me, but your mileage may vary. 2 doesn't work. 3 works for me. So now I get this base64 encoded payload, right? And if I cat note encoded.txt, it's the same thing that I was just showing you. So that's the base64 encoded payload. So what Offensive Notion does for its inject is it's gonna go, you give it the URL where you're hosting the payload, you give it the PID to inject into, and then you give it the number of base64 iterations that you're giving it. And so with that, I'm just parsing to make sure that they're all there, and we're going to do some pressure testing on that to make sure. Once I have it, I am getting the shellcode, and I am decoding it. And here, this is where I'm decoding the base64 iterations as many times as there are base64 iterations, right? I'm decoding it. I'm getting rid of any potential line breaks if they are still there. They shouldn't be, but just in case, I'm getting rid of them here. And then I have the resultant shellcode as bytes. And then from there, we do the old school open process, virtual alloc, write process memory, create remote thread. That's how we do remote process injection in Windows, the old school way. Now, this is the trick. If I did not encode the shellcode, Defender is going to catch me right away, right away. But because I'm base64 encoding that payload as it comes in, Defender doesn't know what to do with it. It'll decode base64 once, maybe twice, but after that, it just gives up because it has to stop sandboxing at some point, and that times it out. So with that third base64 iteration, it stops evaluating that payload. My application still looks legitimate. Defender doesn't scream by itself about create remote thread, and so let's see what happens. So I like the Mac conversation happening in chat.
Been slowly watching it go through, and I'm just fascinated by it.
So we're gonna host the payload, right? So that's on port 8000. So all good, and then
I thought you were hosting it on Metasploit.
So the payload, the base64 encoded payload, is first.
Yep.
Then comes that. So let's watch what happens here. So we're gonna do inject http://192.168.1.114. Now we need a PID to inject into. So actually, before I even do that, I'll leave that code there because it doesn't bother anybody. So I'll do this. Another to do, and I'll do a PS and ask for my commands here. Got command PS, and it'll send back the PS stuff here. I don't actually want to inject into Notion Husky because it'll kill Notion. And I'm running it. Like, I can do it. Oh, actually, no, never mind. I'll just do it. So 21, 3, 1, 12. Cool. And this is a lot of output, so I'm just going to delete this whole thing. So 23, 1, 12. I have to remove this auto-generated hyperlink that it does. It's kind of annoying. But, and then give it the number of base 64 iterations. And then off to the races. That's going to fail because I forgot the port. Okay, so there you go. There's a panic that I need to fix. That should not crash the agent. So let's strengthen that right now while we're thinking about it.
Is it? Oh, it's a full panic.
Yeah, that brought it down. So let's see. Oh wait, right here. So we've got let R equals client await. But if I couldn't actually hit it, then I have to. I'm going to do an if let. And kind
Okay, I
of
see what you're saying.
if let okay R equals client dot get URL dot send dot await.
Wouldn't it just be client.get URL? Because that's where it's panicking.
No, it's panicking. It's panicking after the send. So the way that the HTTP client works is that it's called this client builder, and you actually have to send it to make the transmission happen.
I see what you're saying.
And so send returns it returns a future, which returns a result. So that's why you're seeing the await question mark here. So, what we're gonna do is,
I've been working with Rust WebSocket, so as soon as you do get, it actually opens the socket. That's where it would fail. I forgot this is all REST based.
yeah. Okay, so we're gonna take all this, actually, like the whole thing, and move it into, yeah, because we're at the top level, and move it into that conditional. Yep. All good. And then else. Return okay. Could not. Oh, I want to do format actually. Format. Could not download from URL. .toString.
Should you also include the port in there, or does the URL have the port?
The URL does have the port.
Okay.
We're in Bizarro world where, yeah, so I should explain that. So Husky's right, we're in Bizarro world where even errors have to return okay. The reason is that even if everything goes wrong, this agent cannot die. It only dies when we say it dies. So errors can't panic, right? So everything is sending data back to the agent, even errors. So that's kind of why it's looking like that.
I mean, if you wanted to, you would create a custom struct that said error that you could kind of just pipe a message to.
There's no reason to do that, though. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but the fact is that there's an abstraction there that I don't need. Because I'm, at the end of the day, that would... I don't have to, in the code, distinguish between an okay and an error for this result. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that'd just be for humans reading it. That's
right.
Nothing to do with the
Because
programming.
at the end of the day, I'm sending the complete command has to be this, and this is a result, and then I'm sending it. So like, it doesn't really matter either way. But yeah, if I wanted to be a little bit more explicit about what's happening, I could do that. But okay, so that looks all right. Let me cargo build.
Why is it muted?
That's a really good question. Conditional compilation. This entire block for the async handle is inside of a config Windows block.
Got it.
Is there a future feature request for implanting a kill date for agents so they won't live forever if you forget to kill them? That's not something we had on the roadmap, because generally when you have these things for our kind of engagements, not proper malware, you kind of have a limited term for them. But yeah, not a bad idea. Open an issue. Or once we open the project, you can open an issue. So let's rebuild this thing. Oh no, errors. Okay. What did I do wrong?
URL toString. Oh, format. You don't have to call toString. You just do.
You're right.
And then there has to be comma URL.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, Rust. That format lets that?
Oh, like 3 versions ago, they introduced that. You can do like Python style format strings. That looks good. 1.58. Hey, Donut.
That makes sense. I am not on 1.58, so that explains that.
Rust up stable, baby. Okay. So that worked out. So let's copy that over, rerun it again. And I'm just going to go ahead and fix this. Delete this page, rerun.
Oh, you're going to talk about the JSON config here in a second.
Yes, I am. So, but first, I want to see the injection happen.
That's fair.
So, first thing to do, got to remove that dumb auto link. And the reason you have to do that is because once there's a link in there, it actually becomes a sub-object in the Notion block, like the Notion JSON block. It is no longer plain text. It's not even like HTML with an A tag. It's super annoying. So that's port 8888. And then it's in the FAQ. Well, it's in the instructions for inject. All right.
$8,000 for the Python server. That's right.
You are absolutely correct. So, but it didn't die, which was important.
Your fix worked.
Yep. So we just uncheck this box. It'll find this job again and rerun it. We don't have to re-enter the command. And that's why we did the to-dos this way. So you can re-queue up jobs. Okay, so we got an invalid byte offset 428.
Also, the program didn't die.
That one I knew I had accounted for because I ran into it too many times during dev. Well, the hell with that. Let's go ahead and rebuild it. No, the PID didn't change. The PID isn't the issue. For whatever reason, the... Oh, wait. I know what the problem is. My URL is still wrong. It should be /note encoded.txt. I had to give it the right file. That should help. And then one more time. But at least it's not dying. I'm pretty excited about that.
It's pretty resilient. It's like a cockroach.
Thanks.
Hey, for a malware agent, that is the
No,
highest
I
honor
know.
you give someone.
There it is. Injection completed. We come over here. Let's go to Metasploit. Yeah, baby. Oh, session 21 died. Uh-oh. Defender might be catching on. I'm going to run that one more time, though. More encodings. That might be it.
It's gonna be one of those things like with cryptocurrency. Make it harder.
We might try a different PID, too.
Codings to the moon.
Yeah, we might try a different PID, too. Maybe the PID did change. Maybe somebody else is correct. Notion runs a bunch of different things. Oh, notice that Notion died. My Notion app died. Oh, and it got quarantined.
We can only see your Kali box.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it died.
It didn't just die. It got quarantined.
Defender caught you.
It caught it, but kind of in a weird way.
What does that say? Oh.
It's a pup. It didn't catch it as Meterpreter or anything. Allow. Can I open it now?
Oh, wait, Notion died? Not offensive Notion?
Yeah.
Ginger's got an idea. Let's look at the users in the chat and make sure no one from Microsoft is hiding here.
No, I think it just picked up the PID, the parent PID this time. Because it saw Notion.exe doing something. But
Which, that's super weird why... Wait, that Notion.exe on local, isn't that offensive Notion?
no. Offensive Notion is. Well, I'm reinstalling Notion. So 1 second. That's not the persistence location, Husky. That's straight up where... Oh. App data local... Wait, you're right. That might have been from something else, but... All right, see you, PJZ. Yeah, it's like straight up Notion got hit. Well, that's
Which is
different.
weird, because like it didn't do anything.
Well, yeah, except that it was the parent of the malicious process. Okay, and we're back.
Oh, you injected into this Notion. For some reason, I thought you were injecting into offensive Notion.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and just open up Notepad. Because why not, right? Because I don't want Notion to die again. That's annoying. But by the way, Agent's still running. All I have to do is reopen Notion. I could have even opened it on my phone.
But then we wouldn't be able to see it on Twitch.
Right.
Injected into SVC host.
There it is. 17436. Okay.
Oh, it ran twice.
No, it didn't. So what happens with PS is there's every block in Notion has a maximum of 2,000 characters. So what we do is we, in the Notion code, we actually chunk it out to 2,000 characters per, and we create multiple children if it's over 2,000 characters.
Got it.
So it'll look like there are multiple blocks, like it ran more than once, but actually it's one run, but just multiple children because that's the only way to send all the data.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to change this up. And make sure that the listener is run J. Okay, and Python server still running. Good.
It's funny how little actually died in this kill chain.
Right? Let's try that one more time. Because that's the plan. We only want this thing to die when we say die. I should have picked that up.
Out of curiosity, do you have a kill command yet?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yep, there's a shutdown. That was actually one of the first things I wrote. There it is. Injection completed. Callie, what you got for me? Ah, but it died again. Defender, what are you doing to me here?
Wait a second. Why is that from like a week ago?
No, you're right. Protection history. Here we go. So as of right now, threat blocked severe. Okay, so it caught Meterpreter. Damn. This was working last night. This program is dangerous and executes commands. Now, is it catching it? I think it's catching it at the... So notice that Notepad died, right?
Yeah.
So the agent is still
Undetected.
I think they might be cottoning on to create remote thread in general. But they're identifying as Meterpreter. But notice
But if
that
you know-
the agent is still up.
And they're not catching it on the file. Right? It's not the file that's dying.
It's a full Meterpreter payload, so maybe the reflected DLL.
Yeah.
Maybe. Is it finding it in memory? Let me test a theory here. I mean, this is the whole point. This is why we did it this way. So we're going to take encoded note. We're going to cat note encoded.txt, and we're going to do...
Another one.
Yep. Let's do another two. Base 64. 0.
When
Base
so
64.
Python script to just take in a argument for how many times to do it and spit out a file when?
Yeah.
No, it's super.txt.
All right. Back to Notion, which no longer has an icon. I gotta pick the Metasploit job off again, right? Yeah. And I don't want to get hung up on this because we have other work to do, but let's see what happens this time.
It should be 4, not 3. Or 5, excuse me, not 3.
Oh, interesting. But that did die, which it shouldn't have. So, another thing to harden here.
Also, the PID you had was wrong because that notepad died.
Oh, yeah. So a couple of things might have gone wrong there. But let's take a look in inject. So... not a whole lot I can do about that because I'm doing create remote thread. Yeah. It's in an unsafe, and there's nothing I can do because these don't return like anything.
The error said it happened on line 112.
Which makes sense. Panic, couldn't parse S. Oh yeah, I need to not do that. That
You told it to panic is what exactly
yeah,
what it did.
that was a monkey patch. That needs to be a return. Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yes. S is, in this case, the individual byte. All right, good. Let me commit that. Get st, git commit, and add injection resilience.
Oh, you're committing it already?
I'm committing that specific fix. I try to be pretty granular with my commits.
I always wait till I test it because half the time my fixes aren't fixes.
Well, I'm not pushing it, so I can
That's
roll
fair.
it back if I need to.
I need better get ops, that's for sure.
Expected enum result found U8 on inject 111. Oh, no. I can't do a return here. That's right. Because I'm inside of a closure.
Which is why you panicked.
Right. Oh, well, easy enough. I'll just return a null. Just return 0. It won't work, but whatever. Right?
Yeah. Unless you return an error that you then catch in a larger catch.
I'm in a map and I don't want to mess with that. Because I have to return a U8.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm parsing the 0x stuff into this, so. Okay, that compiled.
Should you recommit?
Yes. And because I didn't push, I can do this. Git commit tac amend. Oh, wait. Hold on a sec. I had to git add. Git commit amend. There we go. That works.
You can always just do commit-a.
No, that's a different thing. Commit-a is commit all. But to amend, you need to add specific stuff.
I thought commit-a was to just add all changed files, and then you could append them.
Would that have worked? I guess I've never done git commit-a tac amend. I guess you could do it. My git foo is exactly as good as my Google foo. So it sounds like, if I'm looking at chat here, we might need to have a session on git on the command line, because I know that it's a challenge for people. I have gotten to the point where I much prefer git on the command line. This is one of my favorites. Git log graph one line. It's so pretty.
So many colors.
Yeah. TIG. When I was teaching, I used to give my students Git Kraken, which I think is still a pretty great piece of software. Oh, and it has GitLens inside of VS Code if you use VS Code. That's pretty neat. And in fact, VS Code has a pretty good version control thing. I really like the change. What am I thinking of?
The change tracker.
Well, there's a term for this though. The tree. The diff tree, I think. But I really like the way that it displays it. Okay, so with that bug sorted, we can rebuild. That was really fast. It was so fast, like I wasn't sure that I got it right. I ran a git init and add on the entire docs folder. I still don't know how to get rid of it. Haunts you. Tiny Witch, the answer is git reset hard. If you didn't commit, you do git reset hard head. And if you did commit, go one commit back with git reset hard head with... that's one back from the last commit.
Or you could just delete the entire git, restart,
Ah,
wallow in your shame.
the lazy method.
I have done that method more than I care to admit.
All right. Offensive Notion comes back up. There's fake Notion. Just copy this over. And link. I'll do PS. Oh, this should be a to-do as well, actually. But we'll do a PS to get the process running. So Tsar, I tried once to use libgit in Rust to do something that I was doing, and I'm never doing it again. I forgot to open up Notepad. One 11856. And it's 5, right? That we did?
Yes. Because we did 3 and then an additional 2.
Yep. That's how math works. What you got for me?
I don't see anything. Does your Kali box say it's got live?
Ah! As soon as I popped the shell, it died.
Alright, that's definitely... So, let's go take a look at Defender. .43, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, there's 2 threat blocks, though, at that time.
Mm-hmm. All
It's
right.
behavior, it's not file.
Yeah, I think it's create remote thread. I wonder if it's create remote thread to Notepad, to be honest with you. Because it owns Notepad, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Try spinning up VirtualBox.
Spinning up why?
Just the application, because VirtualBox spins up a lot of threads.
Agent's still alive though. Good to see.
Yep.
Oh, I was just gonna do like Spotify.
Yeah, that works too. I didn't know if you were using Spotify for the stream music.
I wasn't, although I don't actually want to lose Spotify, so that's a fair point. I don't want it quarantined. Nor do I want VirtualBox quarantined. What can I stand to lose?
I don't know, download like the RuneScape client or something like that.
Visual Studio.
Wow, you really are mad about that. Husky says putty or paint.exe.
I actually like the idea of doing paint. But the thing is, I want it to be something that Microsoft doesn't own.
Yeah, so like putty.
Citrix
putty
Workspace.
Citrix works. There we go. Ginger says do it in Defender.
Citrix Workspace. Get this off my system.
Now you gotta find it.
Yeah, what is this thing called?
I honestly have zero idea.
Oh, wait. Actually, I might... Is it ICA client? ICS? It's like ICA client on Linux.
nvcontainer.exe?
OBS.exe. That won't have any problems at all.
Oh, there you go. There's a PID. 27392.
VMMem?
You don't need that.
WSL host.
VM compute. What?
LSAS. Yeah, unfortunately, let's just try to inject into PID 4.
System.
All right, hang on a second. Sandart receiver. I'm gonna stop trying to guess here and use, because I've got Task Manager open. It should tell me. Citrix Workspace. What you got for me? Ooh, it's a 32-bit. No, this one isn't. ICA client. Self-service plugin.
Self-service.exe.
Yeah. Am I being really dense here? Should it be giving me a PID and it just isn't? There.
There it is.
3932. I'll take it.
And kill it with great prejudice.
Let me bring Interpreter back up. Yeah, I can only hope that Defender takes this off my system.
Man has found a new way to permanently uninstall things on Windows.
I don't think that one worked.
Exploit completed, but no session was created.
No, that was for the job. I think it's here. I think the real deal is that I don't want to spend all night on the evasion. Yeah, Husky's right. The long and the short is, if Defender is heavily signatured, we have about 1,000 rats that can be turned into donut shellcode. Yeah, we're doing basic Meterpreter shellcode. That's what's. I'm not even using like encoding. So I feel okay about that, but let's move on, because there are a couple of known bugs that I want to fix. We did luckily fix that one. Let me try one more thing though. I'm gonna try to do it with the wrong number of encodings and see what happens, because this should not die now. No, it says injection completed, but that's, whatever.
You weren't even listening for it.
It didn't die. That's, I think, the important point for right now.
What were you doing in Java?
This is Jadix. Last night, I was doing mobile app pen testing.
Oh, I missed it. So hopefully it was Kotlin, not Java.
I think it was Java. But if you did miss it, or you miss any of our videos, they are cross-streamed to YouTube. Thank you for that. Incredible segue. Mans with Opinions, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome, friends. We are debugging our C2 agent. The other point is that the parent process performing the injection is not identified. Yeah, that's right. The agent is just kicking. Totally fine. Okay, so calling that a win. Let's move on to some other pressure testing here. Well, actually, no. There's one bug I know I want to fix tonight. Have to do it. Don't have a choice, which is there is a logic problem in config.rs. So the way that we do this is we have all these defaults, and I know this looks a little bit wacky here, but bear with me for why we do it. We have a bunch of these constants that we use for our config. The URL base, which is the API, the Notion API, the API key, which will, we add one way or another. We have the parent page ID, which is this is the parent page. Or sorry, actually, this is the parent page, and then it creates a child page for the agent. The sleep interval, the jitter time, the log level, which is 0 through 5, and a config file path. Now, the config file path is actually where all this stuff can get stored, and it can load these from a JSON file optionally if you want. Now, obviously, some of these, if you read them, they sound like they should be numbers, and in fact, they are going to become numbers. The reason why we have them as these weird strings is because Husky's build script actually will walk you through setting these, doing a find replace, or a sed basically, to turn these into they'll turn these into numbers, and then we parse them in as actual numbers later. But that allows you to use the build script to build out with your defaults compiled directly into the code when you create your agent, rather than having to set them alternatively. That being said, we have two other ways that you can set config options for the agent. The one other way is you can load it from a config.json file, which is what we have here. We've got this config.json file with all the stuff that you need in here, like launch app, log level, config file path, things like that. But we don't want to have to do that. This is essentially just for debugging. The other way you can do it is you can actually pass a base64 encoded version of this to the agent with -b. But again, that's primarily for either debugging or trying to save it with alternative launch values if you wanted to send to a different page ID or something else like that. So primarily, you shouldn't ever have to do this. All the defaults should be loaded straight inside of the program itself, right? You shouldn't have to look externally for the config. But right now, what seems to be happening is that if config.json is absent from the directory that it's trying to launch from, it doesn't work. So, unless we give it a -b. So, to fix that, I have to look at the logic for how this works. So, in main is where we initialize everything, of course. And go back up to here. So, we create a config options, which is a custom struct for us. And so debug mode, like config options, took a spawn. If the first arg is D, then let config options get config options debug. Get config options debug. You know what? I'm gonna two sides this here. And bring config rs over here. So config options debug is, oh yeah, that's where it actually walks you through setting this from the terminal. And Duct Tape, that's actually the one that you had to help me with, because it was like all this stuff was not working with async, if you remember.
Yeah. My question is, you're setting the config path up top, right? By default.
Yeah.
No, on the config side.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what's causing the error.
Well, it is and it isn't. It shouldn't. it should look internally first, basically. So I have to, so if A equals D, so if none, load config options. So load config options is what happens if you don't give it any command line stuff, right? So load config options. So the logic in here, right? So let config file path equals sum match C. So load config options takes an optional string for the config file path. Oh, that's why. Yep, I'm looking right at it. So the issue here is that if we don't give it, if we don't give it a config options, it shouldn't be doing this. It should return what we should be doing with this is actually creating a new config options from the defaults. Is this going to yell at me? Yeah. So it should be like a return config options. Yeah, it's right there. Okay, we'll just do it this way. Config options. Exactly this. Oh, wait. Why don't I just call the function then? Get config options. Return. Get config options. Which is get config options returns a result. And so does load config options. Yeah, so that actually should do it. Yes? No. Why? Consider awaiting on the future. Is it an async?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm looking on the left-hand side, line 66 of main. You already have get config options called over there.
Yeah, I do. So it's just one extra level. So now the trick is that if there is no config file path given to it, yeah, because you can see that with -C I'm doing load config options with here. Okay, I think that's gonna do it.
Wait, if there's no file path give to it, why call even load config functions and go to none? Because it's always going to evaluate to the same thing. It's always just going to call get config function or get config path. So
because I use load config functions in two places. Sometimes I use it with the path.
No, I know, but if you go back to main, right here, passing none, you know that it's just going to call get config function. So why do you have that extra jump routine?
Fair enough. Yeah, good point. I swear I had a good reason at the time. And like, why? Yeah, that's a good optimization. Why would I have done that?
You would have done it if you wanted it to load from the default path if you did not provide a path.
Oh, wait,
That makes
actually,
sense.
that is actually why. Because that's why. Because load config options does something subtly different. Or it was supposed. You know what? Never mind. It was supposed to. But the idea is like the problem here is that now there's no way for the default config file path to be used. You know what I mean? Like now config.json, like I can't have that be the default. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So then it still makes sense to put that optimization into main. Unless eventually you want to have some sort of logic that's just pretty much said create or loaded default instead of trying to load from path.
I do. I want to be able to set up where to load the config file from in the binary, and have it just fire off and look for that file someplace. So the other way to do this then would be config file path. Okay, actually, yeah. So this is an action. I want this to be an option, and I want it for a couple of reasons. One, I want to be able to fully detach. If I want the config living someplace, I want to be able to just do that, and I want to compile that into the binary and have it work. I also want to be able to have a config.json in the same directory as the agent, and it to see it and use it when it's present. But when it's not, use its compiled defaults, right? So,
Yes.
To fix that problem, we're not gonna could not load config file. We're gonna return the default config options. That is how we're going to shave that particular yak.
So there it should just be
Return get config options.
Yeah, that'll wait.
Yep. Yes.
So the question now is, do you want to build resiliency that if it can't convert the current config file to JSON, it just basically rolls with the defaults and just logs that, hey, I couldn't convert it, rolling with defaults?
Yes, I do. But can I? Do I have the logger at this point? I do. No, I do not. I do not have the logger yet. And that's actually the problem. I don't have the logger until the config options are loaded for the logging level, right?
Yeah.
So can the config file path be a remote server location? Or does the config file path need to be local to the system? Good question, somebody else. Right now, it is local to the system. We're not loading it remotely. That would be interesting. Although I don't know how OPSEC safe that would be, unless we're hosting it. Well, I guess we could host it on like an S3 bucket or something. I think that's a good, next version thing that we can do, is look for a URL scheme and parse it accordingly. But we're trying to build this so that it doesn't really need the config outside of it. It's just that you can have it if you want it. Cannot convert config file to JSON. Config file path.
So the other way to...
I actually don't want it to do that. Because if we're just thinking about this, the way that we would do this. So load config options is loaded either with an actual file path, right, from -c, or it's loaded with, well, no, now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm coming around to your side on this, that will mark the error, but we will launch it. We'll launch the agent
with default configs.
Damn. The problem is that if that happens, in the release build for Windows, you'll never see it because and you'll just get an agent pointing to maybe nowhere. Which will die anyway, which is fine. Never mind. Yep, that's good. Agent to Nowhere sounds like a song to be written. It's an old school like 1950s or 1960s TV show that had a banger of a theme song called Secret Agent Man.
Secret Agent Man.
You know it.
How do you not?
Some people are younger than we are.
Johnny Rivers.
Get config options. .08. Okay, so if that... All right, I like that. So the basic idea... And we'll actually put some documentation in for this. Or try it. Ingest config from a saved JSON file, or tries to. If none is passed as the path, the defaults built from the consts.
No, actually, if none is passed as the path, it looks to see if there's a config file in the local thing.
That's right. There we go. And then if no config file can be parsed, defaults are used. I can live with that.
So basically now, unless you're on Windows, when this thing tries to run, it's just something will start up.
Yes. And right, so all right, we'll give that a shot. I might have to run this all the way through Husky's build script to see how this works for real. Let me just do a quick cargo build to make sure that this works. Looks good. Okay. And then Docker container image ls. Yep, okay, I've got Docker in here. Cool. I have not used this build script that much. No module named Flask. I know I should do poetry for this, but
You have poetry.
I know. It's gonna make the prompt all weird. And if Flask is the thing I'm missing, I don't really care.
No. Because normally when it comes to poetry, I just toss it in a screen so it doesn't screw my stuff up.
All right, Python 3, main. So we're going to do... The output is going to be Windows. The build is going to be debug.
He's saying B release, O Windows.
I don't want it to be released, though. I want to see the error happen. And the IP for the that's for the web server. I don't need that.
Oh, also it says
should-
you need to run this script as root.
All right. There we go. Enter the number of seconds for the sleep interval. Default is 30. That's OPSEC safe, but we're not. Jitter range. Enter the logging level. We want all logging. Give me all the logs. Notion developer API key. Right, that's the part.
All right, everyone, just close your eyes.
No,
and promise not to
it's
look.
super leaked at this point, and it doesn't actually even, unless I really share something with you, it doesn't even like matter. Come on.
Wait, how could it not matter if you don't share something with me? Can I not use your API key to just like dump your entire Notion account?
No, you can't. The only things that the API key works with are resources that have been shared to a specific integration.
And that's the key to the integration.
Right.
Well, that's very forward thinking.
It's like it's like a two-way trust. Oh, that's interesting.
Is it gonna make you type it?
It says guy. Oh no, Husky's looking out for me. It's a get pass. Yeah, he did it as a get pass, so it won't actually print to the terminal. Love you, buddy. And then listener's parent page ID. All right, which I have over here. That's not a secret. Do these look good? API key redacted. Love it. Do these look good? Yes.
What am I living in, SCP?
Docker cannot connect to the Docker daemon. Is the Docker daemon running? It most certainly is. Wait, did we kill it? Interesting. Okay, there we go. Somehow the Docker daemon died between the two times I ran the Docker command.
What is pretty cool is it did save it as a config file.
It did.
That is a huge container.
It really is. One of the things I know that we need to do is
What's the base image you're using? Alpine or Ubuntu?
Rust.
But what's the base image it's using?
Great question.
Debian. So something Debian.
Yeah. Not to bring us down here, but apparently... Yeah. Not great stuff going on in the world right now. So...
What's going on?
Well, Reuters isn't showing it, which would be usually the place that I would go to for this source, but looks like we've got a little bit of extra stuff going on, and some folks are saying that there are explosions in Kiev right now, so not great. All right, so we're copying agent. So one thing we can do to lighten the load here on the Docker container is do what's called incremental builds, but we'll take care of that at some point.
I mean, you have 50 gigs of RAM and some like a Ryzen 9. You can handle it. Once it goes to production, then maybe for us,
Well,
peasants out here.
It doesn't. I mean, it just has to build. Building Rust up though. Like, what's the point? What's the point of having a Rust container if I have to download Rust anyway?
I mean, it might be taking a bit of a Carl Sagan view of containers.
It might be. If you want to compile a Rust program, you must first invent the universe.
Yep. Oh, hey, there's your API key. Line 11.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. So we saw it change. I still maintain that this should not happen in this should not happen in here. It should happen in the container, but we'll get to that. But you can see, like, that's why we do it that way.
Yeah. I like how it starts with secret underscore.
Is that other agent still running? It is. So good. Okay, well, while we're waiting, we can try pressure testing some other commands here.
Did Notion die?
No. It's right here.
Oh. It just doesn't have the icon anymore.
Yeah, I don't know why that's true. I had to just reinstall it. Okay, so let's try some basic stuff. If we go to the wiki, the first command is cd. So cd works, but let's see if I try if I do a cd that's wrong. Right? If I do cd, let's first try it with like out any.
Well, cd without anything.
File name directory or syntax is incorrect. Good, but it didn't die. So now let's try it with 3 dots.
It worked. Where
Okay.
are you now?
Well, presumably I'm just up one directory.
Oh.
Actually, no, I'm in the same directory. So I went
That's
up and
so-
back down. And what's
didn't
cool
know-
is that I used, Unix stuff. Or it isn't, but
Yeah.
that worked on Windows. Okay.
Do you have like a Unix only command?
Do I have a Unix only? Not for PWD. There are a couple
Oh.
of that have different implementations based on platform.
I was gonna say, what happens if you fire a Unix only command at Windows?
Well, that would happen in like shell, if you want to see how that goes. So let me try download, because I know download's a huge pain in the butt. This, for whatever reason, it took me a while to get going. So let's go get today's astronomy photo of the day. Oh, it's pretty. It was a good one. Oh, nice. I like when they have the hover labels. There's going to be a gigantic image. Okay, let's not do this one. Ooh, great. An early quasar. I can live with this. Copy image address. So we're going to run download. And the first thing we're going to try is do it without a file name. Because what should happen is it should split off the last piece of the URL and use that as the file name.
I'll say, what happens if you leave it as a URL? Could not write file.
Could not write file. Okay, let's try quasar.jpg. Because that really should have worked. Let's try this. Interesting. So, something went wrong before. Could not write file. Why not?
Well,
Though.
can we see the download code?
No, you have to guess.
Perfect. I'm good at this.
So we split the args, and then we do an unwrapper else for the URL. So it's empty. This is just a safety, basically, or it's an empty string. There's our downloading. Oh, perfect. So actually, we should have seen it say downloading to, and we did, to blank, which sucks.
So path didn't properly.
Yeah. URL.split. It should have split here on the last .unwrap. Because we split on this, and then it should have gotten this. I don't know why it didn't.
Unwrap or else.
Oh, I see it. Ah, Taggart, you idiot.
Did you flip it?
Can I edit this code again? Is this build done? It is done. Cool. So what happened to my config? Is it rolled back? It's rolled back. Great. Good job, Husky. That's really impressive.
Snaps for Husky.
And there's offensivenotion.exe, which was built not now. Where's the result? Oh, at bin Windows debug. Got it. Cool.
Is that the latest one?
Yeah, that's the one that we wanted to see. Oh, if the config thing works, that's why we want that. So actually, call that no config.
Would that actually, that won't copy.
Oh, thank you. And home downloads, no config, offensive notion, no config.exe.
Do you
Good.
have your Windows C drive mounted to?
Mounted? No, it's a symlink. Because the way that it
Ah.
works in WSL is if I look at it's in MNT.
Yeah.
WSL does this. So MNT has C and then my E drive, but C and then
Yeah, just when you did the tilde from your home drive,
yeah. So what I have in my home drive
you just sim linked it to.
is WinHome. Yeah. Easy days. Okay, so that being the case, it shouldn't need config.json, so I'm going to call this config.json.back. Yes. And going to fire up offensive notion no config. And this should get me a new agent. Because I'm not getting the roles that I think I deserve.
Bad joke.
Well, that's that bug sorted. That worked perfectly. And here's the... Because it's debug, it did launch a console. So, So that all worked great. Cool. And I'll call shutdown for that. Okay. So that was a really annoying bug, and I'm glad that we fixed it.
I'm glad it was an easy fix.
Yeah, you and me both. This one's still running, which we can kill this one, though. Let's go back over here. Yeah, you're done. Hit the showers. Let's go rename config.json back to config.json. Yes. Okay, so we have other, because we want to fix the download problem. So here's what I did wrong with download. It's right here. It should not be that the path is args.nth0 unwrap or else. That's dumb. So first of all, there is no args nth0 anymore because I already consumed it with URL. If I've only given it one argument, I've exhausted args at this.
Oh, that's right.
So
the borrow checker.
Oh, wait, no, this is right. I'm sorry, I misread this. This is correct. This should be working. So URL is unwrap or else an empty string. And then the path is now the second argument, because it's the second call to nth0. It's actually the second argument. Mm-hmm. Unwrap or else, URL.split. So it's we are doing that right. The URL split on slashes, taking the last one, and unwrapping it.
And you don't have to borrow?
I don't think so. Desert Fish, thank you for the follow. No, I don't have to borrow because, first of all, it's an answer anyway, so it's all references all the way down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that should be working. And in fact, it was working before. But I wonder...
Can I go back to
What are we going back to?
Oh, you already deleted it.
Deleted what?
The page. I wanted to see the page again that tried to download it.
Oh, well, I mean, here it is.
Because I wonder if it accidentally appended a final backslash because it was that, whatchamacallit, it was that hyperlink for a second.
If it's a hyperlink, it actually removes itself entirely from the text.
Oh, that's right. You were saying that.
Yeah, no, something else was going on here. And I actually think this behavior is different on the Linux side. Let's prove that really quickly. CD source, CD agent. Yep, okay. Let's do a cargo run.
Because you can do that.
Mm-hmm. So this is running it from the Linux side.
Now, is eventually the name not going to always be Odyssey?
Odyssey is my host name. It's the it's the host name.
That makes sense.
No, I didn't want to do that. Well, that's fine. So, bytes written to quasar.jpg, fine. And now we're going to get rid of that and run it again. To blank. Could not write file. So it's not parsing that correctly.
Try deleting the underscores. I wonder if that's throwing it off.
Let me try another image that doesn't have underscores.
I was just saying, like,
I was playing with this one. Come on.
just grab an XKCD.
Thank you. Oh, that was so annoying. Did you see what happened? I pasted it over and it added the hyperlink.
We get it, Notion, you're trying to be helpful, but can you just not?
There is this one bug I don't know what's up with, where sometimes old commands where I try to rerun them, it does not work at all. I have to delete the command and rerun it, but... It's not underscores. It's one space. Okay, what if... That's it.
Space.
That's it.
So you have to call trim.
Yep. Every time. So URL.trim. Pretty sure.
Which just, that doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't the last one still be... Yeah,
Or wait. No, because it's... I'm sorry, that's not where the trim goes. You're right. That's not where the trim goes. The trim goes... way up. It goes to mod?
Because the space is acting as another argument.
Yeah.
That's what I was like, why would it be there? Because it's almost like it's another argument.
Or no, it's still in... it's still in download, but it's got to be... Let me use args s.split. S.trim.split. That's it. There you go. There it is. Okay. That should do it. So, let's kill this agent.
So now,
Back
theoretically, you can have like 4 or 5 spaces between the target and the...
Nope. I think it just... Trim is weird. I think it only handles 1. No.
Really?
Maybe, well, we get to test it.
Yeah. Like Microsoft, keep adding spaces until it breaks.
Okay. Edit, remove link, space. Oh my god. Stop adding the link. Thanks, somebody else. I'm just Wolf. It trims the beginning and ending white spaces. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, like, if it has 2 spaces, does it take off 2? That
There we
worked.
go. So just let's add like a bunch and then run it again.
2.
Yep.
Works fine.
So,
Cool.
And then, thanks, somebody else. I learned how to program in a QA job, so most of my programming experience came from fixing other people's mistakes.
All right,
you
that's
get really good at troubleshooting.
That's a good bug fix. Git diff. What happened to config? Oh, right. That was the actual... okay, so git add config, git commit. What do I want to say? Load defaults if no config file. Git trim URL to download. No explicit path. I teach people to program every day in my day job, and I'm not a programmer. We just train from within the company. Turns out, I'm Dust Wolf. You are a teacher if you do that every day. And if you don't think that you are, number one, you are, and you may want to consider, if you haven't, looking into some training on training. because understanding how teaching and learning works can be really, really effective.
I mean, I hate people who make that argument going, I'm not a teacher, I just teach people. It's like, are you saying artists aren't artists because they're not doing it in a professional capacity?
Great analogy. I mean, I got to tell you that most of the most important teachers that I've had in my life did not impart their wisdom in a classroom.
And
I'm saying that as a professional educator.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. I work for a school, right? I want to be a teacher. That's like one of my dream jobs. And I can tell you right now, most individuals, especially in the IT field, in an academic setting, aren't really setting you up for professional success. They're setting you up for academic success, which are two completely different things. So being a teacher on the job is much more of a brass tacks, get something done in a professional setting than an official teacher in a college course.
I wanted to be a teacher, but found the money more enticing to support my family. Well, I know what that's like. Okay.
Really? You talk like you were a teacher for a high school, middle school? Middle school.
It was, so I taught for a bunch of different places, but yeah, a middle school for a while. But before that, I did teach high school. I taught high school English at a school for kids who were either coming out of or going back to juvenile detention. That was a wild chapter.
And story time when there's more time.
Yeah. Teaser. That is where I learned what knife defenses do and don't work.
Oof.
Okay, so we're back up. Let's try to test one or two more commands just to see what we can break. So we did download. Elevates. Wild, but I'm going to leave that one. We did inject. Let's try. Persist is fun. Oh, port scan is fun. Let's try to break port scan. So port scan. Port scan by default we'll do port scan 192.168.1.114. That's the Kali box, so it should have like 22 and 8080 open. False, we're not going to test all ports at the moment. A concurrency of 10 and 0 for the timeout. Go.
What happens if you fire two port scans off at the same time?
Looks like a CIDR range. No, it doesn't. So, interestingly, Husky, it turns out that everything is a CIDR range, including single IPs. So, that's different. I mean, we can do WAC 32 and it'll work. But it'll say looks like a CIDR range. We have code in there that says it's not supposed to say that, right? So what we should see is looks like an IP address. So that's interesting though. So if is IP CIDR, we'll take WAC 32s without the 32, then we don't need this block.
Host name, maybe Sunday. Oh boy. The DNS resolver for Rust is a bit of a mess.
That's why we're not using it. Can't help but notice, though, that this time it found 22, 80, 80, and 8000. But why?
Wait, why is... Oh, 114 is the Kali box, right?
Yeah.
No, I was going to be like, why is 22?
All right, let me run that one more time. And see if it has a different result.
I'm DOS Wolf says, I thought I'd stop it to see what everyone was up to first time here.
Oh, well, you're very welcome.
Why is there more ports now?
This is a race condition. There's no way it's not. And I think I know why. So we're doing something a little bit interesting here with the port scanner. So what we're doing is we're using Tokyo, and we're using MPSC, multiple producer, single consumer channels to run the port scan. And this is off of an ASIC. So what we do is the scan is we do Tokyo spawn for what we basically do is we flatten the target. So we say we've got an IP address comma port, right? And that's a tuple. Those are all of our targets. Does that make sense? So like if we have one IP address, then we have this many different targets, and it's just going to be that IP address comma target. That's what we send in here. So we're doing scan target tx.send, and then we're doing while there's something in the channel to pull, we're pushing. So this actually should not let us go if there are still results left.
Yeah. What's your timeout that you set?
0.
So there's a bug when you do 0 timeout on this stuff. 0 timeout doesn't mean 0 seconds, right? You still have some cycles, and depending on what's on your CPU, it will time it out faster or slower, technically.
Well, so we're doing Tokyo timeout for it, whatever it is.
Yeah. So I guarantee if you give it timeout of 1,
okay, it'll be consistent.
It should be more consistent.
But won't it be wildly slower?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Horribly, much slower.
Can I give it not an integer? What does it take?
It takes a duration.
Okay, well, it's a duration, so what are we defining the duration? Oh, from sex. So what if we did from msex? Because we can do that, right?
Yeah, you can do from nanosecs and from microsecs, so yes.
Okay, we're changing that up to from msex then.
Is it msecs or is it microsec?
From millis.
There it is. Well, I didn't think it was from sex, yeah.
From millis. They do not have a from vanillis. Oh, sorry, it's been a long stream.
So yeah, now you should be able to pump it like 400 or 500 or 250, something like that.
All right,
a quarter of a second.
I like it.
But no, I ran into that making that ping bot in your Discord.
Oh yeah,
because I was just like, I'm just gonna ping my default gateway. It should be sub-second, and I'm like, why am I dropping pings?
Oh, I can't copy it because the H is still running. Hold on, let's try that again. Oh yeah, so you were dropping pings for that exact same thing. So it wasn't exactly a race condition. It was more. How would you describe that?
It is a race condition because you're just waiting for it to come back and check around again, and depending on other things your CPU is doing, it could take microseconds more to eventually check back in. And because those few microseconds off here and there, it's all
right. Okay, so port scan 192.168.1.114.
You did .8.114.
Thank you. 1.114. God, what's the next? False.
Yeah.
And then 10, and then a timeout of
250.
Yeah. Quarter of a second. Yep. Do it.
Yeah, 0 timeout stuff gets real funky.
Look at that. There's still a space on the bottom there. That's something I think we may eventually do a trim. We'll do a trim for kind of everything. And we may, at the moment, we're saving the commands as strings, and I may change that to a vec for everything. But there are some reasons, there's some places where I don't need it, so we'll see. This was... Okay. All right, so
I mean, really, you can go to like 30 milliseconds and be fine.
I would very much let's divide it by 10.
Because nothing should be taking more than 25 milliseconds to connect, right? If it's just over your network.
It's literally on the same host.
Yeah, there it goes. Boom.
All right,
And
so
now
we
it's
solved
gonna
that.
be consistent.
We solved that race condition. All right, like it. One thing I wish Rust did have is default parameters for functions.
Yes. I wish Rust had default parameters and also that it had named parameters.
That'd be
That
nice.
is one thing that when I finally learned Python from C++ and Java, I was so happy about.
So there is a super hacky way to do it. It's not reasonable in a particularly large program, but if you have a couple of functions that you definitely named, what you can do is you can just pass a named struct with fields.
Yeah, I figured. Good Git practices, Tiny Witch Draw says.
Thank you. All right, I think that's a good amount of bug fixing for one night. We worked through a lot of kind of some gnarly problems and I think made good headway here. So I think we're gonna call it there. Let's see if there is anybody else streaming that we can send everybody to.
While you're looking that up, I have a quick question for you.
Ask away. It turns
Oh.
out nobody else is. Yeah.
How much longer till we see, alpha or beta of this?
Husky and I are trying to get it done like before the end of February, basically. Like we wanna have a release soon, which is why we're doing all this. And it's been like night after night of like basically I'll wake up to patches from Husky and pull requests. He'll wake up to pull requests from me. Yeah, it's pretty much just docs and QA testing. But yeah, so I think we're going to call it a night. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. Yep, so we do have a great Discord if you haven't joined it. And if you don't know about the hack list, there are other great InfoSec streamers. None of them are on right now, but go check them out. Give them a follow. I'll be back on Saturday. We're going to be doing some really cool stuff in our brand spanking new home lab. We finally got our SOC kind of up and running to a first approximation. Now it's time to build it out with some sysmon, with some packet capture, and really just go crazy collecting data. And we're going to finally, if all goes according to plan, start running some attacks in the environment and see what it looks like from the threat hunter's perspective. So don't miss that. That's going to be 10 a.m. Pacific on Saturday. So hope to see you there. But until next time, friends, please be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and happy hacking. We'll see you next time.